Welcome back to the Better Man, Better Ball Player podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cobb. I want to thank you for joining us here in our 115th episode of the podcast. We get to talk to Drew Briese. Coach Briese is the head coach at Center College. He's also the 15U manager of the USA Baseball national team. Most recently, Coach Briese was named the USA Baseball Developmental Coach of the Year. During his time at Center College, he has set the record for wins as well as the season winning percentage. Former assistant coach at Birmingham Southern, where during his time there he was part of 10 conference titles, as well as making 4 straight regional appearances. He's worked on the USA Baseball coaching task force, been an assistant coach on the 15U national team, and then was promoted here in the 21 as manager. Just an incredible guy. We have a great conversation. Just a ton of things. I love the fact of, how the feel of what Coach Briese talks about as the quick bake with USA Baseball and getting guys real quickly from the 1,000 kids you're looking at in June to getting the kids in August ready to compete. To then also running a program full year and looking at the entirety of that and just to understand the differences. There's definitely a feel there. It's different. It can't be treated the same. But there's definitely unique qualities of both and similarities between both, and what we do and what he's doing at a high level at Center is also things that he's taken from USA Baseball and how they do that and their gold standard. And so the standards that he's running at Center, there's the very similar things, which is a really great perspective, and always try to go back and forth between this is great with USA Baseball. How does it relate to you this at Center? The challenges between the two, and you're dealing with the best talent in the country at a certain age, and and you go and going back and forth between the college and the USA Baseball. It's just a unique experience, and touch base a lot about that. But then how he's running his program from the standards they're doing it, creating a vision for the program, bringing in the personal side, the student side, bringing in of course the baseball side, and marrying all those things together. Types of lineups he likes to create, to the scrimmages he's doing, playing coach pitch scrimmages, and kind of their philosophy during the week. And then wrapping up with a lot of just advice for assistant coaches, head coaches, things that he's doing and things that he believes. And it was just a ton of fun. I can't thank him enough. I can't thank enough our guys at Netting Pros. The guys at Netting Pros are improving programs one facility at a time. Netting professionals specialize in the design, fabrication, and installation of custom netting for backstops, batting cages, dugouts, scoreboards, BP screens, and ball carts. They also design and install digital wall graphic padding, windscreen, turf protectors, dugout benches, dugout cubbies, and more. Netting Pros continue to provide quality products and services to many recreation, high school, and college fields, facilities, and stadiums that are throughout the country. Contact them today at 844-620-2707 or info@nettingpros.com. Visit them online at www.nettingpros.com or check out Netting Pros on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for all the latest products and projects. So big shout out to them. Thanks again, Coach Briese, and enjoy it. Took great notes. You can always find the notes on Podbean. And without further ado, here he is, head coach at Center College, the 2022 USA Developmental Coach of the Year, Coach Drew Briese.
I think it's USA Baseball's way of getting really good people involved with their programming. So it typically starts out like it started with me in 2013 on the scouting task force. And, my first interactions were going down to Florida and kind of watching tournament games, trying to identify players that could potentially play for the national team. And that's really what I did just for the first couple of summers. And then started to move up from there. They actually asked me in 2015 to work with the 14U developmental team. And there's no international play at the 14U age group. So they asked me to be involved with the developmental team, which is 40 kids that come to the National Training Complex in North Carolina. They go through a very similar series of events as the 15U national team would go through. They train in the morning, they play in the afternoon, they go through media training, they talk about nutrition, they talk about college recruiting. There's typically some event tied in with something related to serving country. So like a trip out to the National Guard to see all the Apache attack helicopters. So I got involved doing that, and then kind of bumped up to the staff level from there. So yeah, there's a pool of names. I don't know how many it is, probably 20, 30 names in a year. Any four of which can end up serving on the coaching staff.
And because every year those staffs change, right? They announce who the managers are. Right.
Yeah. There'll be.
So it's not like
there's rarely is there a manager that kind of repeats. It happens from time to time, but it's very rare for a manager to kind of go back and repeat in back-to-back years.
Okay. So it's you saying like but in your role, so like you're probably not going to be the 15U national coach, but like you could probably maybe be assistant coach like on the 17 team, or like maybe follow like with the 16 now next year.
Yeah, most likely everybody that's kind of in that pipeline sits around and waits, in December, January, February until USA calls and they make the ask and say, okay, man, we would love for you to come and scout the 15U East Championships in North Carolina, or we would love for you to work with the 16, 17U developmental program. And, in a given year, depending on if it fits with a recruiting calendar and what our family's doing in the summertime, I try and make myself available for whatever they might need me for. So no, I won't be back as the manager, but I will, if they'll have me back, I'll be back in some capacity next summer.
Oh, great. That's awesome. So yeah, just unique. It's just, I think it just seems that it is such a unique thing, and everybody knows USA Baseball. It's like, but it's hard to understand like the process of it also. Like it's odd. Like people are always just wondering like, how does all this work? Like, how does it make it happen? And there's nothing like putting USA across your chest. I mean, that is the, best thing that you can do. But it's always like, well, how do you do it? And
there's nowhere where you can look up on a blog or website and kind of see how you get into it. But yeah, for me and for most of the people that I've worked with, it started by knowing somebody, or somebody passes your name along, and then you start on the scouting task force, and then you work that week 4, 5, 6 days, see how you do, and then hopefully stick around, and they ask you to come back and do it again the next year.
Yeah. Very unique. Just a very unique, and it should be. I mean, really think about it. You really think about it. There shouldn't be anything like it.
No, there's nothing like it, man. Like, I played college baseball. I never played pro ball. But when you hear guys like Christian Yelich saying that playing for Team USA is the greatest thrill and the greatest time that he's ever had playing baseball, it's like, that kind of blows you away a little bit, and also justifies and kind of fortifies the feelings that I have, and our coaching staff had last summer down in Mexico, that our team had. When you put the uniform on and you step out onto the line and the introductions are made and the flag goes up and the anthem plays and you're playing to win for your country, there's absolutely nothing like that.
Yeah, I would say super. That'd be just amazing. It would be what an amazing opportunity. But yeah, it's just funny. Like just a lot of guys you hear, coaches and players along, and it's a tough route, And I know that I'm involved in some travel ball, and so I know about the NCIS stuff, as well as like carry invite when they want teams there for that the Team USA. No, that's an invite thing too, that they're going to make sure they try the best team. So they basically, like you said, they want the best teams there, so then they can kind of help identify the certain age group of players who could possibly be USA baseball kids.
Yeah, and that's one of the, for the full-time staffers, obviously not me and usually not the guys that are on the scouting task force, but the folks that are working in carry year round. Mm-hmm. That's a huge part of their job, is trying to identify the teams and the individuals that they want to kind of funnel into the USA events, so that those kids can show out and have the opportunity to be seen and have an opportunity to earn the right to go to team trials and compete for a spot on a national team. So, yeah, I mean, they're deep in with the travel teams, making sure that they get the best teams to carry that they can, the best teams to the big USA tournament that they hold in Arizona each June. The right kids to NTIS, the right kids into the national team development program. So the full-time staffers there are doing an outstanding job of just identifying those kids and getting them in the funnel.
Nice. Just a couple of things that come into mind when you think about these kids and what you're doing. Like, I guess it's two things, like, what have you learned, I guess, through like your time with USA Baseball that you brought back to center, that you've to help ignite your program or, continue to raise the bar, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I mean, we might need a couple hours to go over that. a couple things. The first thing I've learned is that some of the best coaches in the country are at the high school level. So some of the guys that I work with on scouting task force or that have been at team trials with me, that have actually, I've been on coaching staffs with through USA, are high school coaches, and they are some of the best and the brightest, and they are dedicated to their craft. And it kind of really gives you an idea of the guys that are doing it on a ground level, and they do such an outstanding job. So, I mean, I'm bringing home anything from more strategic X and O type scenarios where, we sit around after our meetings are over at night and talk about everything from, pickoff plays to bunt defenses to how we teach the swing. And I'm bringing all that stuff back home, little nuggets every time I go to a USA event. And then I think as far as like overall team philosophy type of things, one of the best things about USA and one of the most challenging things about USA is that they really do adhere to this idea of the gold standard. And when they say gold standard, yes, it means that the expectation is that we win gold in the World Cup. But it's also an expectation, the gold standard is, of just the way you go about doing things. So if you're scouting a game, the expectation is that you're locked in and you're doing it to the best of your ability. And buddy, you better show up in your meeting with your notes right and the ability to get your ideas across straight, because somebody's going to challenge them in there. And so bringing that back home on a simple level just means that I'm able to talk to my guys more about performing at a high level with everything that you do, and having that expectation for yourself that whether you're in a batting practice group, or whether you're in an individual defense group, or whether you're cleaning your locker, that we're gonna do it to a really high standard, and we're gonna hold each other to that standard.
Is that something like, so you think about the gold standard? When you first get in there, is that like everybody hitting you over the head with it? Like you have like your USA full-time guys, like, here's the standard, here's what it is, like, and they kind of necessarily define it? Or is that what basically you as a veteran coach, you might see a new coach that you might not know, and that's your job to hand that over him? Or is it, like I said, the full-time guys?
It's both. And I can remember my first event like it was yesterday, and meeting with the director of the 15U national team, getting ready to scout for this tournament in Florida. And basically his message to the scouting task force was, don't bring me anything that's subpar. The expectation is that we're going to win a gold medal. And so your job is to get out there and find the kids that are going to help us do that. And so whether you're talking about identifying talent level or identifying personal characteristics that are going to help a kid to compete at a high level on a national team level, that was the challenge. And that was in the first team meeting. It was, we are not winning silver, we are winning gold. And then from there, it does trickle down to the guys that have been around for a long time. At my first event, Butch Chaffin was there, and he was kind of leading the task force. And so Butch kind of was able to translate that message from the director to the scouting task force. and say, hey guys, here's what he means by that. These are the things that we need to make sure we're doing on a daily basis. This is what we need to go over in our meeting. This is what we need to have eyes on tomorrow. And so that kind of trickles down from the director level through the top veteran guys on the scouting task force down to the new guys.
Man, what a great, like, you think about it, what a great, like, analogy even for, like, your team. You go to the center, it's like, they're like, I'm setting the standard as the head guy. Our veteran guy should then be, here's how, communicating that in possibly, let's say, quote unquote, real terms or kid terms, I guess you could say, to kind of then get to the freshmen, or you could say the newcomers.
Yeah. And I think in any program, you could be talking about a corporate setting. You could be talking about football. You could be talking about baseball. That's the type of trickle down that you want to have there. But it really only comes when the message is clear and when it's something that everybody can get behind. And I'm telling you, like, from that first meeting, I was fired up. Like, I didn't want to let anybody down. I wanted to look at that team playing later on in the summer and know that I did my part in helping them to win a gold medal. And so when you set it out like that, it's easy to get on board, to create that vision. So that's, when I went in this past year as the manager, that was actually one of the first things that I wanted to do, was set the vision for the team so that our assistant coaching staff could really buy into it, and that could trickle down into the players.
100%. So, and then taking that same philosophy or process, quote unquote process, is like what you would do in the center, especially with that first meeting in the fall.
Yeah, without a doubt. And for us at center, we meet every fall and we cover all of our standards and expectations for the team. That is the first meeting. It's cut and dried, and we're going through our 10 standards and expectations that we have. The seniors are at the point in that fall meeting where they've heard it for the fourth time, but they know it. They know what the expectations are, and they're able to turn around and it's really what happens on a daily basis that builds all that, right? It's the individual decisions that we make during the course of the day that either build that vision or deviate from that vision. And so, the idea of having boots on the ground with the seniors and the juniors, kind of passing those messages down, that's how we build a successful program, right? And that's no different than anybody else.
100%. I like how you said that. Like you said that, like, the individual decision we make every day will help build a vision or deviate from the vision. It's basically essentially what it is.
Yeah, because it's not. You can have all the great meetings that you want, and you can have all the great sayings and quotes posted in your locker room that you want. But it really comes down to motivating young people to make decisions for a greater good, or for a group that's not themselves, that's going to build your success and your chemistry as a team.
So, like, you set the standard, and you talk about the day-to-day action, and then how do you hold? And if you won't mind, like, I'm just thinking that, because I know the difference. I'm just thinking the how you're balancing the difference between, like, your USA holding the standards and then as well as at center.
Yeah, it's definitely there is a different feel to it. USA
right.
is what I call like a quick bake. It's a quick bake team. So, just to kind of let you, here's a glimpse into how the team was built. The scouting task force and the coaching staff scouted, 800, 900, 1,000 players last summer. Kind of had an idea about some guys, but didn't really know everybody that might make it to team trials. Well, out of those thousands of players, 72 had to go to team trials. All right. And that happened. We first started scouting in June. Team trials happened in August. So 72 show up at team trials. 4 days later, we cut it to 34. 3 days later, we cut it to 20. So from June 6th, the first time I went to Arizona to watch a game, to August 18th, we built a team to go compete in an international event. So it happens really quickly. And then once you get to the 20, you have 3 days with just that team to prepare. So it is really quick bake. And so like for me, setting the vision there was like, we have to be ready to do something immediately. And the idea was we created this vision called One Mission. Everything that we did when we were prepping in Arizona, everything we did once we landed in Mexico, everything that we did preparing for the World Cup was with one mission in mind, and that was to win a gold medal. So whether we were practicing, whether we were preparing ourselves physically, whether we were sleeping, eating, traveling, whatever, it was with this idea of one mission of winning the gold medal, because it has to happen right now. In the college setting, it happens over the course of years, right? So we have more time to kind of start to develop those ideas. So you can start on smaller levels. You can get into more detail. You can set more expectations. The vision can be a little bit bigger. Obviously for us, it crosses over into the academic realm. It crosses over into the personal realm. It touches the baseball realm as well. So that vision is a little bit bigger, and I guess it takes longer to blossom at the college level.
I love that. I just think that's so real. I think that's such a great answer. Like, and about just the realization of, because it was one mission is like, it's very it's not process oriented. You know what I mean? Like it's really focused on the goal. Like that's the goal. Like that's what we're doing. So it's result oriented, and basically what you're saying is then take it, but that's where we can be, because it's quick hitting. We know what we're going to do. We're coming here to do it. And then if you're not on board with that, you're going to go. But typically, I understand, again, like you said, you have a feel for it. Like it's pretty quick. It's an event. Like, let's just go out here and let's go out and win the thing. So I guess, holding those to that standard is the standard is like, you're that good of a player, and you're going to go show out.
It's the best thing about showing up at the World Cup with the best players in the world is you feel like you should win.
Right.
And so like setting a standard, like, yeah, guys, we should win the gold medal because we are the most talented team here. They can buy into that. There's nobody questioning themselves. There wasn't a lack of confidence in our dugout.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that's what you said. That's where you go. I mean, I don't know how much time, like you said, it was pretty quick, to compete. But then, like you said, going to like see the Coast Guard and doing those kind of things where the guys can realize like, this is what I'm also playing for. I think there's still some of that too. That's why you're able to still focus and still give your best effort, because you're still also playing for that bigger than yourself.
Yeah. And the great part is like so many of those kids have been exposed to the network in USA before. So there were a couple guys that had played on the 12U national team. There were kids that have played in the 14U tournaments or been a part of the 14U developmental program. So they had already had a little bit of a taste of what the gold standard was and what was going to be expected of them. And it wasn't all shiny, bright, and new. It was just shiny, bright, and new because we were 20 players and 4 coaches that had never worked together. And hey, in 3 days, we're playing South Africa in the first game of the World Cup. So go get ready, boys.
Yeah. So do you spend much time like really trying to connect, or is it still just gung-ho? Like our connection is just, we're just going to keep repping and getting, and just working at baseball.
You connecting with the kids, you mean?
Yes. Like you said, just trying to build, like, we're just trying to figure, like, we all just kind of got put into this.
Yeah. I think you have to, man. Like, so we, even though it's like, it's so quick, we're living together, we're eating together, we're on the bus together. We're practicing in the morning, we're playing at night. We have to have a really good feel for what motivates these kids. Maybe what sets them off a little bit, can get them off kilter. So establishing a relationship with them is really important. I was trading texts with the kid that closed out our gold medal game last night, and I hope that we maintain a relationship with these guys going forward, because it's a lot of fun to see them grow and mature as young people, knowing the role that USA Baseball kind of played in their development.
So can you, with having to do it so quick, I'm sure you're probably pretty intentional about it and things like that. So what have you found that helps with establishing that relationship?
I think it's really just taking the time to get away from conversations about, load and stride and hip shoulder separation, and really get into, things away from the game. How you feeling this morning? How's your body holding up? We really try and break down the walls with them so they feel comfortable in a foreign country at the age of 15 with the adults who are kind of supervising them. If they're not comfortable around the coaching staff, man, they're probably not going to have a great experience competing at a really high level in a foreign country. So kind of bringing it down to a personal level. And then when it comes to like the coaching side of it, rather than trying to change a swing or change pitching mechanics, more just trying to understand their thought process and why they're doing what they're doing when they're doing it, so that when that time comes in the game, we can help steer them in the right direction and take all that great talent that they have and kind of force it into the right mechanism.
That's good. Understanding the right thought process, their thought process, to be able to steer them into the. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So in order to do that, you're saying, okay, well, you talking situations? Are you talking just like, hey, what's your best stuff as a pitcher? Are you talking like, hey, what are you looking for in this count?
All of it. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it could be, I think there was a time toward the end of the tournament when we got the leadoff guy on. I didn't really want to bunt. So I just went up to the kid on deck and, we had a pretty good relationship, and I was like, hey man, do you like drag here? Do you like hit and run? What do you like here? He's like, well, I want to see one first. And then if we get to 1-0, then let's go hit and run. And so, just kind of getting to that level with them where they can talk it through a little bit. I can know what they're thinking. And for our pitching coach, especially to know what that guy wants to throw when he's on the mound. A great example of that was the gold medal game against Cuba. We're up by 1, and it's the last inning, and it's bases loaded for Cuba with 1 out, and we make a pitching change, and bring in a young man named Ryan Harwood out of Arizona, and one little ground ball the wrong way, one little bloop, and the game's either tied or they're ahead in the gold medal game, and we have 1 at bat left. And our pitching coach called 8 fastballs in a row. And Ryan has a really good slider, and he called 8 fastballs in a row, and Ryan struck out the last 2 Cubans, and we won the gold medal. But he knew that that's what Ryan would feel really comfortable throwing in that situation. So that's what we're going to live and die with. Go get him, big boy. Let it eat and take him down with the fastball.
That hadn't come without, his time with him and how he spent talking to him. What do you build that in, coach? Like, what do you build it? You build it in during practice? You trying to build it in like intentional time to talk to everyone? Like, cause I'm sure not every, especially 15-year-olds, or not even your college kid, just going to walk in doing and just going to talk to you.
Yeah. I mean, you hope that they will. And there are some.
Right. And of course the door's open, but we all know that that's not for everyone.
Yeah. And so like, I think it starts early, like on the field when we're in a trial setting where, man, you're just trying to grab them in between rounds of BP. You're trying to grab them, during a stretch session. And then, once you start to build that relationship with them now, when you're in the hotel eating lunch, maybe instead of eating with the coaches, you're going and eating with a couple players. Maybe you're grabbing them when you're walking to the bus, just having a quick chat. But like I said, you're living together for a couple weeks before you go to the tournament through the trials and training process as you cut the team down. And so you're trying to take advantage of all those, quote unquote dead time to really, pick their brains. And it's crazy how much those conversations come up in the meetings that happen at nighttime. So, we do our whole day. The coaching staffs meet at night. There's usually about 12 coaches that meet to help select the national team. And those conversations, hey, I grabbed this guy in between a round of BP today. Here's what he said he's feeling when he's at the plate, or he's not seeing the breaking ball well. He's not confident when he's against a, left on left. And those conversations really come up quite a bit. So to find the time away from the field to break down those walls with them, wherever it is, bus, meals, is really important.
That's good. So good. Even just to to be open to those things too. You know, like, I mean, I guess how much of that, and then again, me going to the school, it's been so, like, as, because I understand why, you're on the USA baseball team. Like, hey man, what do you like here? Oh, well, at center, any other regular college, like, is that just your style? Like, where, like, I guess it just depends on the kid, whether how much maybe control that you have, or like you might want to see, or is it still something that someone can earn when let's putting your center hat on?
Yeah, I mean, back at center, on the pitching side of it, our pitching coach calls pitches, but our pitchers have the right and are encouraged to shake whenever they want to. And we call it like collaborative communication. I tell our guys, this is not high school ball. So yes sir, yes sir, yes sir does not work for me. And I tell them all the time, around that second yes sir, I know I lost you. If I'm explaining a swing or a bunting stance or whatever, and I'm getting yes sir, that's not going to fly for me. That does it in high school, but not here. And this also it's not pro ball, like, where you and your manager might just be almost peers in some way. We're somewhere in between. And we call that the collaborative communication area, where we're going to ask a lot of questions. Why do you want to throw a fastball in when we call slider away? Do you like hit and run here? Do you like drag? Do you like push? Do you like swing away? We will talk to them about all those different types of things, so that we get a feel for where they are. And I think naturally, just probably like anywhere else, you get a feel for your kids, and they earn that trust and ability to go out and do things where we take the gloves off a little bit more, the older they get, and the more trust that they earn.
I love that. That's good. Collaborative communication. So good. Especially even just like, because it's something that you need, both sides need to work at it too. You know what I mean? It's like you're asking those questions, but they certainly have to be involved and take ownership, and be able to talk back to them. And then, like I said, earning that trust, huge. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you and I have both been there. When you're 21, you're 22, like, you don't want a 44-year-old dude telling you, you got to do it, this way. It's got to be A and then B and then C, and it's got to be done in that order. And if it's not done in that order, then, you're out of here, my way or the highway, man. What we need to do is teach kids to have ownership and intentionality with their own game, so that when they are 21 and 22, they know exactly what to do in a given situation. They feel very confident about their ability to respond to what the game is asking them to do. And they don't need to be led around like a 14 or 15-year-old kid might, because he just doesn't know the game yet. And he definitely doesn't know his game yet. By 21 or 22, our guys need to know what the game is asking of them, and then what their game is, their strengths and weaknesses, in order to respond to that. And I'm telling you, over the course of my coaching career, the ones that can really do that are the guys that are very successful in their college careers.
So you're saying the ones that take the ownership and the intentionality, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the guys that, they work their game, they know their swing, they're very comfortable in any part of the game. So they can, if just take an offensive player, for example, they're very comfortable hitting in a leadoff spot. They're very comfortable in a 2-out RBI situations. They're comfortable putting down a sacrifice bunt. They're comfortable with a hit and run. They're comfortable against lefties. They're comfortable against righties. They're comfortable against different pitch types, because over the course of their career, they've learned and been taught how to utilize their skills, so that when they are juniors and seniors, it's just like, yeah, man, I got this. You just stay over there in the dugout and watch the lineup card. I'm fine. I don't need you anymore. That's really the goal that we have for them.
Isn't it the goal? Like, I mean, I talk, about being a teacher, they're student led, the best teams are definitely player led. So absolutely, that's our goal, is to where we're not needed. It's my job as a dad, like trying to give them good lessons and be a good example where, like, you shouldn't need me, and I'll always be here, but, hopefully they've gotten good enough lessons and create a good enough environment to where we can step back and just watch and enjoy it,
Yeah. My wife and I had a talk recently. So I have a son who's 19, and I have daughters who are 14 and 11. And we had this discussion, and it was, we never really talked about this in 19 years of parenting, but somehow, some way, I think we've ended up on the same wavelength of what is your goal for your kids?
Mm-hmm.
And some parents might say, we want our kids to always feel secure, or we want our kids to have a lot of joy in their life. And for my wife and I, we both kind of came to this answer independently, but have obviously worked together on it. We want our kids to be prepared. And so like, that's our number one job, that when we think of what we want to do as parents, is to prepare them and give them the skills that they need to be successful in life. So my son, who's a sophomore in college, decided to go 17 hours away from home to go to school. And for me, like that made me feel really good that maybe he has the skills to go off and live his life independently and be pretty successful doing it. Coaching's not all that different, right? Like we want to give our kids the skills to be successful in the game that we're coaching them. For us, it's baseball.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why, like, I remember the shift that I had taken, like being such the drill guy and breaking it all down to like, we got to do more games. Like we got to do more situational, like live stuff. Cause that's what they need to be prepared for. I got to help them be better prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can look as good as we want to catch a ground ball. If it's not 4-2, if it ain't 4-1 and we're not feeling that, you're a wreck coming game time.
No doubt.
And then I just find it so interesting too, like baseball, we have a hard time, and it's like this myth of like just playing the game. We break it a lot down, but you would never go to a basketball practice and not see them scrimmaging, playing 5-on-5, and things like that. Or like, I know football's different when you got pads on but like they got a scout team, so they can hound, they can do stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I just find it very interesting, like where it's still guys trying to like you're just hitting a fungo to a guy throwing across the bay and there's nothing going on. And like, that's a practice. And like, it's like, how does that even thought of like, because other sports, it would be, you know what I mean? It would be very different.
Yeah, I think it's just different, and the taxing toll of pitching and what that does, and it limits the number of true reps that we can get.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we try to play. If we have 3 games in a week, and 4 games in a week, 3 games in a week, and 1 game midweek, we're still going to play another coach pitch scrimmage or 2 during the course of the week, and we may even get some live at bats for our guys that didn't swing a lot on the weekends against guys that may be rehabbing or, kind of down the line pitching. But we want those live reps as much as possible. And I think that's kind of the way you look at a lot of major Division I programs. And man, they do skill work for a little bit, but it's a whole lot of inter squad. Like that's what they're doing with their training time.
Yeah. I mean, it also is like, and that should tell us because like they're very limited. In certain high schools, the lower levels, you have more open freedom for your practice. But they're very limited. And so what are they doing? Playing.
Yeah. There's no
playing.
Substitute.
Right. And trying to get it there. But yeah, you have to manage your arms. It's going to take some organization within your arms and like understanding like arms and like have a plan of like the week and where you're going. And this guy can't throw out 60 pitches, and I think it's a big reason why you're seeing a lot of like even pro guys like looking to hire like BP pitchers, like a guy that can get on the mound and deal a little bit, and like get after some guys. I think there's definitely some value into that, but it's just, like I said, I think it's just for me, like, why is it so different, than between all the sports? Because you wouldn't see other sports that it's not playing a real game.
No, it's definitely different for the game of baseball, without a doubt.
Yeah. And I think we're doing a great job. I think guys are just, get more creative, and playing the game more and being okay with it. Like we're playing, it doesn't have to, I think we'll talk a lot about, I think guys are doing like shorter bases during coach pitch scrimmage. Like I said, coach pitch, you can put them in a 1-0 count, or you're doing a 2-strike count, and you're creating pressure, making the game faster. and things like that. I think that's something we definitely have to do.
Yeah. One thing our guys did this fall, and they kind of did it without us. It was before we really got going with our full team practice, is just created a machine pitch league. And so our hitters were divided into 3 teams: the gold team, the white team, and the black team. And they all played at least twice a week, just a machine pitch scrimmage league. And, they set it up at, at 50 feet, at, whatever it was, 84 at 50 feet, whatever the simulated velo was. And, man, just got after it for 8 or 9 innings, depending on the day.
That's cool. Cause you take pitching out of the case, and then you just play, and someone's dropping it in there, and they can work on it a lot, and that's what I love about the machine. And it's funny how, like, wasn't there a period there where, like, no, you didn't want to use a machine?
Oh, I still have guys that are like, no, not the machine.
Yeah. But even, like, for me as a coach, like, I was like, oh, I don't like the machine, I'm going to throw, or I'm going to hit it, like, I'm going to do this and that, like, but now I just think it's a little shift of, like, use that machine, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's nice when, like, you have a belief in it, which I do in the machine. And then, you kind of get backed up when the kids are turning on Twitter and they're looking at spring training, and they're seeing the big hack attack out there, and these guys prepping in spring training off the hack attack. It's like, see, they're doing it too, fellas.
Absolutely. That's because honestly, it's funny. Like, cause I always tell guys, like, yeah, I can get on you at 35, 40 feet, but, like, there's something for the machine, like, to see it at 60 feet and see the velo from that, like, and track it. Like, there's something to that. I know I can simulate it from 40, but, like, to see the curveball and get it and drop it in there and what it is, and it just, there's something for me about the tracking of it as well. Seeing it a full length. Like, there's definitely something to that, especially when you look at, people talk about decision making and timing and what that comes from. Like, you're messing up timing by looking at 40 feet from a pitcher, and then, or letting them be able to see it from 60 feet.
Yeah. That spin and the ability to hold plane, from 60 feet is really important to see. Tracking, from 45 feet of BP, even if I'm throwing firm, it's just not the same spin rate. Even if I'm spinning a good breaking ball from 45 feet, it's not the same spin. It's not the same angle. So to track that stuff from the mound is really important.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's when you start to see, like, the guys who have that swing, that they're swinging right underneath of that's that thing that can kind of hold at the top of the zone, and you just see them can't get it when it's just, that's their swing, and they're not, or even just not necessarily the swing, is just like they can't understand where it looks like that ball's coming down, but it just stays.
Yeah, it's got the ride to it.
Yep. So that's just a unique thing. And one of, like, is that something, like, when you talk about, you said, like, what you've learned a lot through the USA baseball stuff, is that one of, like, maybe the transitions, like, you've been able to help and like maybe change your course and how you're coaching through, like, just kind of these processes of, like, the coach pitch scrimmage and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's that whole idea of, like, shared knowledge, and I think any good coach, and it's a little bit of a cliche probably to say now, but is a bit of a thief. And USA baseball just gives me an outlet, basically, to find people to steal from. So yeah, whether we're talking drills, like I said, or whether we're talking strategy, just the outlet of people. I got a text from a good friend of mine, Jason Maxwell, down in Nashville at Ensworth, down there outside of Nashville last week. And we were just talking batting practice structure, and just bouncing ideas off each other and kicking things back and forth. But yeah, man, it's a great outlet. So, like, you guys do this with your machine, or you're going double machine, or, down to, if you want to get your settings right on it, here's a chart that you can use. I think somebody gave me one of those once upon a time. So yeah, all that kind of stuff just comes from that shared group knowledge of getting together and just basically kicking around baseball.
Yep. Just like what we're trying to do here tonight, trying to chop it up and get better. And I just love to be able to go back and forth between, like the quick bake, and your college, your program, because I think it's such a real thing. And it's and when I say real, as in like just understanding, and again, it's such a baseball word, but having a feel for the two is that something that was kind of like in your time kind of learned, or again, like a Butch came by and said, hey, here's how I do it with my program, and here's what it's kind of like here?
Yeah, it's definitely something that is distilled over the course of years. So like, I kind of had a feel that I might be asked to be the manager a while back, and immediately started talking to guys about, okay, in that setting where you name the national team, you train for 3 days, and then you go to compete, what can you reasonably expect to get done?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you're not going to have all these outrageous bunt defenses. You're
Yep.
not going to have all these outrageous pick plays. You're going to be really limited offensively. And then you just try and keep learning and make it as easy as you can for the kids. So like, we are at trials last year. We're getting ready to go to Mexico. We had decided on a series of signs offensively to use. And we were talking to the 12U coaches who had been in Taiwan the previous month. And they're like, hey, man, we just went to wristband signs for the kids offensively. It took all the pressure off of them to learn a new set of signs. They said it was just much easier for them mentally. And I was like, let's go.
Let's do it.
We're ordering wristbands today, which is something I've never done at center, in 18 years of coaching. I've never done offensive wristbands. But as soon as I heard that, I was like, yep, we got to do that. And then, I would text, call, email our coaches who I need to mention, our pitching coach, Rob Shabansky, and our assistant coaches, Jeff Sherman and Steve Butler, and just say, hey, man, here's what I'm thinking as far as 3 basic bunt defenses. Here's what I'm thinking as far as a basic, verbiage for cuts and relays. Here's what I'm thinking as a basic fly ball communication verbiage. And so you are able to install that kind of stuff in 2 to 3 days and get it rolling a little bit. But anything beyond that it's too much.
It's too much.
Yeah. So we just kept it really, really simple for the kids.
Yep. And I think, because there's a knock with like travel baseball, and you're going to these different places, and it's like, and it's like, when would you really have a time to do that? You know what I mean? Like, when would you really, there are certain, if you're going to stay local and you can practice and you can do those things, but like, guys that are on the circuit, doing different things. And it's like, there is a reality of like how much you can actually put in, based off of your travel schedules and, the kind of the schedule that you're going to play and the different types of teams that are out there, and it's like, we can't just bucket all the travel and all in one bucket, because not all is different. It's just very different.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Like they're very limited in the summer times with their travel teams and what they're doing strategically. It's basically, we know this, it's a show and go. And it is a showcase mentality, where you're trying to show your best skills, even in a team environment. And I get that, and there's a reason for it. And I'm not gonna knock it. But I will say this, man, I was so really proud of our guys with their aptitude and ability to soak that stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
So all right, we're gonna classroom tandem relays for 10 minutes. And when we get out to the field in an hour, we're going to drill it. And these players are so talented, first of all, but they're smart baseball players, man. They're 15 and they were really smart. So they took to that stuff really, really well. So whether it was bunt defense or a tandem relay, like they made it really easy on us with the way they went about it.
Yeah. This is about being a player. You know what I mean? Like, I know we all have our guys, but like, for me, that's a guy. Like, it's some guys that are just freaks of nature, athletes, and you're going to take that guy, but that's very few and far between. But like, I think so it makes a really good player, to be able to talk baseball as well as understand it, and then be an athlete, amazing player that you are.
It is like that guy, those middle infielders that they just get spacing in that tandem relay, right? They they hear it in the classroom one time and they're able to translate it out on the field. Or the catcher who's trying to set up that relay and he's screaming out, to these guys who are trying to run some type of communication with them. And innately he gets the feel for the verbiage and the timing. And man, all of a sudden in 10 minutes, it's looking like a pretty well-oiled machine. It was probably a testament to the type of players that they are and the natural talent that they have.
Oh yeah, 100% to be able to catch on that quickly. And, do those kind of things, like when you are on the task force, or like looking at games, how much are you able to pick up on those kind of things? Or is it all basically just raw talent? Or are you able to pick up on the things like, oh, this guy really understands the game?
No, it's a must. Like you have to have an evaluation on where they are in terms of skill, just raw skill.
Sure.
How do they hit, run, throw, et cetera, et cetera. But then if you're taking them into a meeting and you're gonna talk on them in a meeting for the national team, there needs to be an understanding of what their intangibles are and what their personality is as well. So for your catchers and shortstops, the way that they command the field, are they, for a shortstop, are they getting to the right part of the field? Depending on what the play is asking them to do. For their catchers, are they commanding the pitching staff on the fourth day of a tournament when it's 100 degrees? Are they still showing natural leadership skills that are going to translate to a World Cup setting? Absolutely. You have to have an evaluation done on that and be able to speak to it when you get into those meetings.
Okay. So that's still something that you are definitely picking up on, where, a guy's actions is also speaking to you, like how much he understands of the game, leadership qualities, like you said, the intangible piece.
For sure. And at some point, in these tournaments, when you've watched a kid 2 and 3 times, and now you're watching them maybe for a 4th or 5th time, where their skill level is. And now you're really bearing down on the intangible ideas, the leadership ideas, the personality traits, to really get a feel for what that guy is. Because, man, I mean, I'm telling you, there were 72 kids at trials. There were lots of kids that could have made the 20. What went into finalizing that 20 was making sure that we had the right kids that were going to be on board with this idea of going to Mexico, some of whom weren't going to play. They hit 3rd or 4th in their lineup on the blah, blah, blah prime national team. And
right.
Now they're going to be a role player. How are they going to respond to all this? You really have to have a feel for that.
How do you do that? Like how do you explain? I know that, but are you able to have conversations with that to be like, hey, this is where we think your role is? Do they have a chance to be like, oh, like, have you ever been like, man, I don't know if I can deal with that, coach? Or like, I don't care. Like, I just want to help, help the team win.
Luckily, 99% of it is the second part, what you just said. Man, I just want to help, whatever you need me to do. Okay. So Landon Sims, who, just finished his career at Mississippi State, was on our team in 2016 in Japan. And Landon had a limited role as a pitcher in Japan first that year as a 15-year-old. One of our catchers got hurt, and he just came to us and said, I will catch every bullpen that needs to be caught as long as I'm not pitching. He was just like the most outstanding teammate that I've ever seen. Awesome kid. So luckily, most of them are more along those lines. There's some natural, I think, disappointment when you're in the 4th or 5th game of a tournament and it's never happened to you before in your life where you didn't see your name on a lineup card. There's some natural disappointment that comes along with it. I think it's really important for us to lean on the personal relationships that we have with the kids when that happens. So we can pull them aside or grab them before a game and kind of let them know, hey, man, you're not in there today, but here's what we may need you to do later on. Or here's where we see you really impacting this team. Or this is what we need you to do so that we can go win that gold medal. And yeah, there's some conversations like that have to be had. But like I said, 99% of the time, it's the Landon Sims of the world who just want to do whatever they can.
That's great. I wouldn't expect anything. It's not that I would, but but the point was like, you have those conversations before that essentially you kind of foresee like, here's what your role is going to be. It's not like, oh, you're part of USA Baseball. You essentially have, quote unquote, their role kind of mapped out.
I think yes and no. Like you have some ideas in your head, And I mean, you can go back and look at the lineups and how they kind of moved and shaped during the course of the 10 games that we played in Mexico this summer. The last lineup was not the first lineup.
Sure.
And there are some things that changed during the course of that time. So, checking in with those kids, again, making sure that they understand why things are going on, what's going on, et cetera, is important to do. But yeah, I mean, you walk in and you have some expectations that kids like Ethan Holiday are going to play a really good shortstop for you. Brady Ebel is going to be a lockdown third baseman for you. We had a kid, Alex Harrington, out of California, who's a really highly rated player in his class. He's a shortstop, committed to Stanford. He didn't play shortstop, man. He went and played left field for us. And then he came in and played second base for us. But he was just like, whatever I need to do. Like, I just want to win. I just want to win a gold medal. So kids like that are absolutely awesome.
Absolutely, they are. You just kind of sparked some. Honestly, they just like sparked some things. Cause I love talking like lineup, like, and it's all philosophy based, So it's just good for talking baseball and just kind of standing up on things that you go. And because I'm sure you have to set a lineup for the strengths of your college program. Did that same philosophy come back to your USA team that you just said? Like you said, the lineup wasn't the same the first game, the 10th game. How you built the lineup, say philosophy, are they the same? Or now that you have these certain, like essentially the best players in their age group, is this philosophy different?
I think maybe a little bit of both, where whenever lineup I'm putting together, whether it's at center or with USA, I want my best two guys to hit in the first three batters. It doesn't matter whether they're fast or slow or power or whatever. Those two guys that we want to have the most at-bats in a game, the most at-bats in the course of the tournament, I want those guys hitting first, second, or third. And we did that. So, Coy James was our leadoff hitter and ended up playing center field for us. Again, another kid that plays middle infield at his high school in North Carolina went and played center field and was the MVP of the World Cup as a center fielder leadoff hitter. And Andrew Costello is just a hell of a bat out of Pennsylvania, and he's a really good catcher. Just committed to Wake Forest. Hit third, and he was all world as well. So we put them together, and then we kind of moved around some pieces in the middle to kind of feel it out a little bit. I'm a believer. I like a guy that is a low strikeout guy, relatively in the 5-hole. So we did carry that over a little bit, and we had Brady Ebel hitting there some. We had John Short hitting there some, and then you just play to the strengths of the lineup after that. Kind of. Are you re-kicking it with another leadoff guy? Are you able to string some more power guys through the 6-7 area? It really just kind of depends on what the game needed that day.
I like that. So yeah. So so like, were you that guy? Like, are you thinking like the 7-hole re-kicks it, or you think the 6-hole re-kicks it? Like, if you have that kind of quick guy you're putting in the bottom, where you're looking then, because old school wise, looking at the 9-hole is going to be re-kick. Kind of have the double leadoff guy.
Yeah, I think it depends on your personnel. So, like, again, Alex Harrington he's a kid that has some pop, but he hits leadoff for Canes National and did all summer. I mean, kids had 100 at bats, 200 at bats for Canes National as a leadoff guy. That was a great kid to hit in the 6-7 hole. Just depend on where we were that day, because if he had guys on in front of him, he was very comfortable driving guys in. And if he didn't, or he was leading off an inning, it's just like another leadoff guy to hit there. So having kind of that natural, I guess maybe slash type player was really good for us around that spot in the order.
Okay. Like, yeah, being able to just like, I'm huge too. I'm a huge guy. I'll just like, who do I want? It's always a question of like, who do we want to get that fourth at bat? Like, who do we want to get that extra at bat here? You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like that's always a, because there's definitely certain things that like no matter center, you're at USA Baseball, like there's just like tell things in baseball, like why you've been successful.
Yeah, and there, there's a ton of philosophies out there.
Right.
That's great. Like talking to Jeff Sherman about it, who's a huge hitting guru. He was our assistant coach, first base coach, and just kind of picking his brain on thoughts on the batting order, or Steve Butler. He's been around USA Baseball so much, and getting their thoughts on how to impact the order this summer. It almost makes you feel like you can't go wrong with it. When you have the best players and you're getting great advice from these really good coaches.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's just, it's hard to, hard to mess it up. But yeah, it's funny how certain pieces just fall into place.
Yeah,
I even like you said at the 5-hole. Like even just that's a good, solid, good approach. To the 5-hole. Someone would say, again, that's all philosophy of where that one might be, but it's a good one.
Yeah, that's just me. I trust that there's going to be guys on base in front of that guy. I don't want a 22, 24, 26% strikeout guy in the 5-hole. I want like a 12% strikeout guy there that can drive the ball a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. That's good. That's fun. So yeah, Sherman, Sherman's a dude, man. He just I love his blend. I love his blending stuff that he does hitting wise. He like blends with the Met ball, he blends with the water bag, blends with the certain things that he's working on. Like does some great stuff hitting wise. He
really does, and he's a fun one to talk to because of his passion. Like he's so passionate about hitting that you can basically just give him a prompt, like, "Hey man, talk to me about scissoring," and he would go for 45 minutes, and you just sit back and listen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You got to bring out the mad scientist, I'm sure, Willie Marshall.
Oh yeah,
he does that.
Yeah.
If he talks about scissoring, I'm sure. That's fun. That's good stuff. That's good. So you strike me as definitely as more of a positional, offensive guy. Not so much than a pitching guy. Just wondering, as the kind of your managerial, roles and things like that is like how much, because you're dealing with the best, also, let alone the best players in the country. You get to deal with like Jeff Sherman and, just incredible coaches. How much are you like, even just talking to the pitching coach here and just kind of letting him do his thing? Like you said, just letting him call the pitches, or like, like the pitching move that you had to make there, is that just based off of each other? And of course it always falls on the head guy, but like how much, those pitching decisions and what you're doing, are you involved with, or are you just, or can hand them basically off?
Yeah. So Rob Shabansky was our pitching coach, and Rob has been involved, I think, with 7 national teams.
Wow.
He's the head coach at Gateway Community College out in Phoenix. And I've known Chubbs, as he's affectionately known, for a really long time. So he was the pitching coach when I was an assistant coach with the team in Japan in 2016. We've kept up ever since then. And when they asked me to be the manager, that was my first phone call, was to him. Like I wanted him. I almost felt like I wasn't going to be able to do it without him. So he had 100% latitude pitch call wise. He called, I think, every pitch in the tournament. I think I maybe asked him 4, 5, 6 times, like, "Hey man, what do you have here?" Pitch wise. And that was more like defensive positioning, that kind of stuff. But he did it all. Like I can't take one iota of credit for that pitching staff. He did 100% of it. And I was so comfortable with having him do that. Mm-hmm. When it came to changes and who to get up in the bullpen, who's first out today, how are we going to play matchups, that was definitely like a 2-headed monster. Him and I just working together to figure out how we wanted to attack the day. And then, when it was time to make a change, to put our heads together, say, yeah, it's time to go get him and bring in this other guy.
And again, the other two-headed monster is like, do you try to find, and do you try to, because you've done this now for a while with USA Baseball, do you try and find the right people for center where you can still do that, kind of run the same philosophy, or do you feel like you need, is just different with the center?
It's a lot the same. So, I should mention my two assistants as well. Taylor Valentine is our offensive assistant, runs our infield and does a lot with our base running. And then Ryan Gaines is our pitching coach. And Ryan's been with me now for 6 years, I think. But Ryan was an All-American pitcher at Birmingham Southern. And I recruited him out of high school. I've known him since he was 17 years old. And when I had to go hire a new pitching coach at center in 2017, I knew that he was trying to get into the business. And so that was my first and only phone call to hire a pitching coach, was directly to him. It was his first and only job that he's held out of college. But he knew the philosophy of what we do and the expectations that we have for our pitchers. He knows the type of players that we're trying to recruit for that. So he calls pitches for us. He does most of the recruiting on the pitching side of it. And yeah, it's kind of like that same two-headed monster we have here at center. So it was easy to work with Shabansky in that way, because that's the way Gaines and I work, during the other months of the year here at center.
Yeah, I mean, it's just pretty really fortunate, where you're able to not have to make so many different adjustments, and it's still very, but like just still have the same kind of philosophies and kind of do business the way you're comfortable doing.
Yeah. And what I do, and maybe this is for me more than them, is I feed them information. So, I'm tracking it. I'm keeping my chart. For USA, we've watched all the games that are on YouTube, or we've watched them live. For our games at center, we've watched the previous games on streaming or gotten our scouting reports or whatever. And so I'm feeding them information. Just, hey, first pitch aggressive right here. Hey, he's a breaking ball out. Will chase, can elevate. And I'm just putting little bugs in their ear to help them, during the course of an at bat. And like I said, maybe that's more for me, just to make me feel like I'm doing something and they don't really need it. But that's kind of the way we work it.
Cool. Yes. It's just great to be able to see, I think, knowing how different they are, but then there's some similarities. And again, just having the feel between the two, and then, being able to change hats and understand, well, here's what's going to happen here. Cause for me, especially prime example is when you go to the ABCA, when we're getting ready to go to the ABCA here, in a couple weeks, but it's especially as a high school coach, or even a coach that's not a Power 5 that doesn't have the budget, how do we change those things and take the same kind of philosophy or what they're trying to do and get the same thing out of it, but at our level?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like you've really done a good job of that, and just, have a good feel for those kind of things, been able to here's USA baseball, and here's what we're trying to do at center, and trying to marry those two. And, it's really cool to see.
Yeah. I think, I'm sure young coaches who stay in it for a while have somebody that impacts their life and kind of affords them that opportunity to sink their teeth into something and kind of take control on it. And that's really what I want to do for my assistants, is give them that opportunity to learn what they're doing, control part of the game, understand why the game moves in this direction at that time. Because that's what was done for me when I was a young coach. Coach Jan Weisberg at Birmingham Southern, had me coaching third base, had me working with the hitters, had me taking over the outfielding, taking over the catching, doing tons of the recruiting when I was a pretty young coach and didn't always know exactly what I was doing. But I think it's important to bring the whole staff in and make it a kind of a full force, by having those expectations and allowing guys to fail while they're doing that. I can remember a time last year we called fastball in on a guy, and I was like, what do you have right here? He goes, fastball in. I was like, don't throw fastball in. And by that point, it was out of the pitcher's hand, and then it was over the left field wall. It was a learning curve, and those are the mistakes that are going to happen. And I made mistakes too, coaching third base and working with hitters. So we want to afford those opportunities to our young coaches.
For sure. What other I think along those terms, along that kind of advice, you kind of give it advice to head coaches there. Is there any other kind of advice that you would give to, coaches beyond allowing your assistants to be assistants?
Yeah. For assistant coaches, my best advice is to show up and get to work. Like, those two things are irreplaceable. And if you show up every day on time, early, and you are working your tail off at whatever your job is that day, maybe edging the infield, it may be recruiting, it may be fundraising, who knows? But if you're working your tail off at it and you continue to do that every day, then you have a good future in this profession. And I think the other thing for assistant coaches is realizing the power that you have as a conduit between the head coach and the players. So like we talked about setting the vision before, I really think that assistant coaches are the ones that the players look to see, are we carrying that out? How is that done on a day-to-day basis? Are these guys doing what the program expects of them, so that it shows, and we're going to do it too. But they really help to sell that vision and reflect what the team standards are going to be. And then for the head coach, if I were advising head coaches, man, I would just say my best success, and maybe it's because it's fresh in my mind, has come from setting really clear vision for what our team is going to do, and kind of selling that for the players. This is what's going to happen, and this is how we're going to make that happen. And if we can talk that every day and believe that every day and work at it every day, then you're moving towards that goal. But making that vision very clear for what you want to do with the team and what the standards are to reach it.
Going back to that vision there, like thinking about that, like, does that change for you every year?
It has to. Yeah. I mean, so like my first year here, center had won, I think, 7 games the two years before I got here. So we needed something really simple. And, just this idea of being competitive was the first thing that we had to really hone in on. And, we had guys that were more interested in the frat than the baseball team. Something bad happened in the course of practice or a game, they didn't know how to respond to it. They didn't really have a great understanding in how to compete. And so, man, that's a really base level thing in our game is, there's 150 pitches, 300 pitches in a game. How can you compete for every one of those? And so that was kind of the first thing. And then, we've kind of gone through several sets of that to like, all right, now we're able to do that. Now the next thing is we're going to raise the bar. Raise the bar from where our standards and expectations were, raise the bar from winning a school record number of games. Now, what's the next thing? We're going to continue to raise that bar to kind of where we are to where we are right now. So, yeah, it has to change every year.
Right. Now, I loved how you said you did with your team. You called it the one mission. Do you give your vision a name each year too? Or is that just something that you did with the USA team?
So it's something that I did with the USA team. And I think if you look back at most USA teams, most of them have something informal like that with the team. So for our team in 2016, it was the idea of uncommon. Just, we are uncommon guys. You guys are uncommon players. We have an uncommon goal in what we want to do, going to Japan to win, et cetera, et cetera. So the theme was uncommon. We haven't done it every year with our team at center, but it is something that I think I'm going to start doing more and more, just because it solidifies whatever that idea is for the team. What do we want to do this year? And so it's something that we'll start to incorporate more and more.
Cool. Yeah. And I guess I'll follow up with that. Like what you were just saying there was when you talk about like what the team is going to do. Is that something you have as a team meeting, or is that something you discuss as staff, or is that something like I'm setting the course here? Yeah.
And I don't mean this to sound dictatorial or egotistical in any way, but it starts here, man. It has to. And a friend of mine through USA is Jared Halpert. Jared's the head coach at Harvard Westlake. out in California, and they've had all kinds of success and sent all these guys to the big leagues. And Jared's he's very blunt. He's very in your face, and I absolutely love that about him. We have a great appreciation for each other. And we were talking about team chemistry one time, and he was like, "Don't give me this BS about team chemistry." And I was like, "What do you mean, man?" Like I was kind of in the back of my mind thinking it's something that has to be built, has to be gained. He's like, "Here's the deal. Team chemistry starts and ends with you, bud. Like, you set it, you set the course for it. The team is going to respond how you are at practice, how you are in games, how you are in a classroom. That's where your team chemistry starts and ends." I was like, whoa, like that's kind of a novel idea. They're really, really going to focus in on every action and word that I present to them. So when it comes to this idea of, what our foundational thought for the year is going to be, it really starts and ends right here.
Love it. Almost like extreme ownership. Extreme ownership is just a matter of everything starts and ends with me. Taking responsibility for all of those things. Like you said, it's essentially like what your buddy was saying. I that's kind of like how I kind of took it. The ownership of chemistry was through me. I know Butch Davis, because Butch Davis talks a lot about it's not a leadership problem, it's a team chemistry problem.
Yeah,
he talks a lot about that.
Yeah, no, and I'm a big believer in it. So yeah, I mean, my job then is to understand what that vision is, and then really set the course for how to create buy-in for that. Like we have to set the hook, and the guys have to want to make the choices on the daily that are going to support that team idea, whatever it might be. One mission, show up and work, uncommon. They have to make the choices that are going to support that. Kind of like we were talking about earlier. The T-shirt that says, one mission doesn't do anything. Mm-hmm. It's the actions that support that idea that are really important. So my job is to take that idea, sell that to them, and get them to make the decisions on the daily basis that are going to support the idea.
Mm-hmm. It's above the line.
Yeah.
Above the line, below the line.
No doubt.
Yep. And setting those things. What is it? What do those things look like? That's the next step of it.
For sure.
Oh, that's awesome. I know we're already getting away like almost an hour and a half in here. Dude, that's wild. Man, that's good. Shoot. I don't know. I want to respect your time. So Coach, it's kind of wrapping things up. Like, if there's one thing, like, let's say we haven't got into that you'd really like to like talk about or give advice about, or maybe something that, we would just as we're coming here, I'm going to kind of put this on you as thinking, what would you like in this situation?
I like it, man. I like you putting it in my shoes. I think one of the things that has really come to me in the last year or so, and that maybe this is helpful to young coaches out there, or guys that get really stressed in certain situations. The game will continue. The game will go on, whether you win or you lose. And I really want to win. And I wanted to win a gold medal. And I was really competitive in my mindset in order to go and do that. But if it didn't happen this summer, I think I was also going to be able to lay my head on the pillow at night and not lose much sleep, because I did everything in my power to go and do it. Like I gave my all to USA Baseball this summer with the way that I scouted and the way that I prepared and the way that we, went about building the team and the staff that we put together. It would have been some heartache, but I think it wouldn't have caused a black mark on my heart. And I think as coaches, a lot of times we get so caught up in the winning and the losing that we allow it to affect our personality and probably to affect the impact that we're having with the young people that are around us. So, just in the last year or so, I've become more resolute in my kind of desire and standard of making sure that I'm continuing to have that impact and not living and dying with the win and the loss record as much as I am, making sure that the relationships are solid and that we're doing the things that we got into this profession to do.
Coach Drew Briese, just giving us some great information. Loving it. Glad to just love the whole conversation. Flowed well. A lot of good things. Just loving just way the communication was. Even just communicate throughout the whole set. He talked about setting a clear vision twice. One thing that came above from just the gold standard and knowing the vision created by the directors, then handed down to the veteran coaches, how they're then giving it to the newer guys and newer coaches. And essentially, like, then it's his advice at the end about head coaches setting the clear vision, what they're going to do. I mean, after we got done talking, and you're just thinking about how it starts and ends with him, and being able to talk about the vision, how the vision changes. So the communication piece is very clear, and even throughout it, building those relationships, it really just comes down to the communication piece of talking to the students, talking to the players, talking to them about more than just baseball. How's your body doing? I love that. How's your body holding up right now? And getting outside of those things and building that relationship, again, coming from great communication, I think it's definitely a telltale sign of a great coach, and how people are and how they're just able to get the most out of players. Loved to just talk lineup, and just a really unique thing about we're on the same page about just playing more, scrimmaging more, understand that, if guys have time to practice, they're going to scrimmage, they're going to play, put people in game situations, preparing them. We want our guys to be prepared, so we need to prepare them for the game, for what they're going to be held accountable for. Just overall great conversation, and Coach Briese, I just can't thank you enough. Can't thank you guys for hanging out with us here again on episode 115. But it's a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun, and like me and Coach Briese, we sat on the call and just continue to talk baseball, and I can't wait to the next conversation we have, and looking forward to our next conversation and continue to help grow the game and just help us get better. So until then, keep getting better.